Hi, welcome to Business Influencers. My name is Chris Salem, your host. You found us here at TALRadio. We also encourage you to follow us on our YouTube channel at Business Influencers with TALRadio, also on Spotify, Apple, and so on. So again, we are excited that you are here because each and every week we bring in subject matter experts to share their words of wisdom and insights to take your level of influence to the next level. It's through influence and how you create rapport and trust. And when you can create rapport and trust, you're also establishing trust. This is why people want to work with you or with your organization. So again, we are here and committed to bringing subject matter experts that are going to share their insights from real life experience to help you to do that. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it is a membership program taking out all the noise of social media. No more of those noisy notifications. You get to come in and generate genuine and authentic relationships and connections with the people you choose to interact with, including content, and where you can form as many groups as you like in that particular area. If you'd like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about raise your business EQ, emotional intelligence, to lower risk of employment litigation. Again, you're going to be hearing about some of the proactive legal steps that business owners can take now to reduce their risk of lawsuits from employees or any changes or claims filed with the Department of Labor or any government agencies, such as the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And we are here with Eric Sarver. He is a lawyer, Manhattan-based employment law and business law attorney who counsels, defends, and represents small to mid-sized businesses in various industries. A Long Island native who went to SUNY, Binghamton, and Hofstra Law School, Eric began practicing law in January 1999, and he is the founding attorney of Sarver Law Firm, PLLC, which opens its doors in April of 2001. Eric and his associates help small to mid-sized companies seeking to navigate the ever-changing world of federal, state, and municipal labor and employment laws while defending employers, management in federal and state courts, arbitration, or in the government investigations into matters such as employment discrimination, wage and hour violations, paid leave issues, breach of employment contract, or commission disputes, and related employment litigation and compliance matters. His law firm further provides business law services from business formation to buy-sells, drafting of investor agreements, stock purchase agreements, operating agreements, partnership formation, and dissolution and commercial litigation. Whether your business is in technology, hospitality, entertainment, professional services, retail, finance, marketing, or construction, Eric has successfully helped companies in these fields to find solutions to their employment law and business law challenges. Eric lives in suburban New Jersey with his wife, Sarah, and young son, Nathan, and he enjoys spending time with his family, playing guitar, karaoke, cycling, going to the beach, and working out at the gym. And you'll have Eric's contact information here later in the show. And without further ado, we welcome Eric Sarver to the show. Eric, how you doing today?
Chris, thank you so much. I'm doing quite well. Thanks for asking, and thanks again for having me back on the show. I think this is round 2, I believe. If not
Yes, it is.
It's great to be here. Yes.
It is great to be. I'm so glad to have you back. And, I'm really looking forward to talking about this area of emotional intelligence because I'm a big advocate of that. I speak on this myself. And, it's so important that business owners more than ever, to learn more about it and how, in this case, now they can use it to their advantage, especially in the environment that we are in today, and how they can help to lower risk of employment litigation. Can you talk a little bit about business EQ, Eric, to kind of establish a foundation for the audience listening and those that will be listening later?
Sure thing, Chris. It's interesting because I've been an employment law and business law attorney now for about 25, almost 26 years, the last 23 which on my own. And I feel as if what I've noticed in the last, let's say, 5 or 7 years is more of an emphasis on this business EQ, right? This emotional intelligence kind of quotient, the soft skills that really I think employers need to help reduce the chances of litigation. So when you think about it, just to maybe lay a framework, right? I counsel companies and small to mid-sized businesses on how to avoid litigation. Usually, you think about following the laws, right? Knowing what the laws are around overtime, hiring and firing, or wages, or things like that. You think about how to follow that and have written contracts and employee handbooks that. But the thing about business EQ, to your question, Chris, this is sort of another area of soft skill. In my mind, I would define business EQ as having the emotional awareness, right? Having just a capacity to understand, let's say, right, where your employees are coming from, to be able to listen more than we speak, right? To be able to, let's say, face conflict with your employees, your workers, your middle management, if you're a business owner, that is, without defensiveness, without the immediate reaction being to be defensive and then to counterattack, right? I think that, business EQ also means restraint, right? We may want to say things to an employee in response, let's say, to an allegation that we think is untrue. So to wrap it up, or to summarize it, I should say, not wrap it up, but to summarize, being open and honest, admitting when mistakes are made, being willing to forgive and to ask for forgiveness. I think those are those soft skills, I used to call them, the business EQ that helps employees become less disgruntled. And when employees are less disgruntled and more happy, there's a less of a chance that they will in turn, if they ever part ways, that maybe they won't go and hire an employment lawyer to sue you for other reasons.
No, it's so true. So true. And I know, there's so many different, types of businesses out there. I know you work with quite a few of them across different areas. And, you got people who are going to have different personalities, especially business owners or the people there, obviously that work for them. So, knowing how to communicate properly and share information is more important than ever. How you talk to one person may not be the same to another in terms of how they. So what would you recommend for, business owners listening here? If this is now an area they're looking to grow, add more people, why it's so important to be looking at this now in a proactive way, not in a reactive way. God forbid if something were to happen, that they're now not reacting, but they're on top of it. They have the resources necessary, knowing how to navigate this area, or even hopefully even offset and prevent it.
Right. So a couple of questions within that question, right? One is, why is it important to be proactive and to develop and cultivate this business EQ, and why now, right? And why not? And what's the advantage of doing it now as opposed to, let's say, later on down the road? So I think, right, one thing about why it's important to be proactive, right, to really have employers, grow their management's ability to, again, listen to employees, even the gripes and complaints, right? And there may be truth to them, there may not, but have an open mind, document matters, investigate, let's say if there's employee on employee conflict, right? And try to work out resolution, using, emotional maturity, right? Using skills of restraint, of, what you say in the heat of your angry moments, right? Using, let's say, communication, good listening. The reason why it's important to do so, Chris, proactively is because, right, if, let's say, you run a company and you have, let's say, a toxic work environment, but you may have employees who are fired for perfectly legitimate reasons, but they may not see it that way, and they might have an extra layer of resentment and anger that may cause them to want to hire an employment lawyer to sue you. So my point is that if we can be proactive, right, if we can, try to defuse conflicts in the workplace from employee to employee, from employee to manager, and vice versa, manager to employee, right, then we stand a better chance of having happier employees who, even if, let's say, they're let go, or even if, let's say, they're not given a promotion, they don't take it so personally and they don't think it's based on their protected class status. So my thing is, you try to keep the peace now in the workplace in order to stave off litigation. It's always easier to have, mediation, internal mediation, right? Set up a conflict resolution board in your company, for example, and mediate and resolve things. Because when you get to the the defense stage, when you're hiring me to come in to defend, you're being sued in federal court or state court, or you're being charged in Department of Labor hearing, then the legal bills really add up. So that's one reason why I think it's important to be proactive.
Yeah, so true.
Hmm.
And Eric, what do you share? I mean, it doesn't matter if these are companies that are small, like even mom and pop, going up until like even as they continue to grow into bigger companies.
Oh, I definitely think it's important to have business EQ at all stages. And I would say that, working with a leadership or business coach, if I may put a plug in for you, Chris, I know that this is a lot of what you do in part, a lot of what you do with your,
Yeah.
right, companies and businesses, train them to have good leadership. I think that a lot of smaller companies make a mistake because I have a lot of small business clients. I handle their compliance, I handle their contracts, handle their employment law, litigation defense and Department of Labor hearings and audits and investigations. And I found that many smaller clients, the businesses, they don't believe that these issues will happen to them, right? They read about, a misclassification issue of employees and workers with Uber or a discrimination lawsuit at Google. And they think, oh, these are where the problems happen, right? We're small, we're intimate, we know each other. But the truth is that, right, sometimes the smaller, closer companies people tend to take those bonds more seriously. And sometimes a large company of, 10,000 people, it's a little more like, the employer lets you go, or the employee, let's say, there's a lot of bureaucracy and people are used to it. But a small company with, three workers that have been there for 12 years is a lot emotionally invested, right? So that to answer your question, I think it is definitely important to cultivate, to encourage and grow business EQ, business emotional intelligence. Um, Even if you have two workers or one or three, or if you have 300.
Yeah, so true. Love it. What you
Mhm.
shared there. And what I mean, and when it comes to, this process, Eric, when you work with a business owner in
Mhm.
terms of helping them in this area, what are some of the things that you feel where it has to start? Like, does it start with just awareness first, or, do you start putting together some resources for them, to have in place? What would that look like?
Yeah, that's an excellent, question. So when I start to work with a company, let's say a business, let's say it's a restaurant or an architecture firm or a doctor's office, right? When I work with them on these issues, right? First, I try to make sure that they are following all the different federal, state, and city employment labor laws. That's number one. That's my main, bread and butter, my main training. But in evaluating how well they're following these laws, I ask them, what are your HR processes, right? What's your process? How do you take in complaints? How do you process them, investigate them? When I listen for the answer to how companies do that, I sort of get a sense of when, for example, they have an open door policy and they welcome employees to communicate concerns, and when that's sort of lip service and they really just don't want to hear from employees. They want the work done, they don't want any gripes, any complaints. So I try to get a sense of, I ask companies, what are some of your hot spot issues? Do you have any questions that employees are raising? Do you have any conflicts, any disconnect? Is there discord between your workers in the workplace, or is it harmonious? So when I ask those questions, and sometimes I get a little funny pushback, sort of like a joking response of, like, am I, an armchair or business psychologist and or an industrial psychologist? And I'm not. I want to say that I'm not trained in that. But when you practice in employment and labor and business law for, 25 plus years, like I have, you get to be like sort of an armchair therapist in a way. You get to see, where conflicts start. So again, I go through there. What's their processes for interacting with employees, for hiring and firing? And the last thing I'll say is the firing process is very informative to me because, if people are fired like on the spot and it's like, pack your stuff, you're out the door right now, your email's disconnected, you know, that could often lead to it shows how much they value their employees, right? Or don't value their employees or devalue them. If they don't give them, a little more notice, a way to transition out. So I try to encourage employers when possible to handle terminations with more emotional awareness and
Yeah, I
sensitivity.
agree.
You
Would it
know?
be mean
Mm.
that, they have to be more, there's got to be more documentation, where there's a communication trail of that documentation of communicating with that other person so there's no gray areas of he said, she said type of thing.
I think, right. I think documentation is very important. And I think also that, in the documentation process, let's say of performance issues or of the need to let somebody go, there needs to be at times, an interactive process. I mean, I've done both sides of this employment law. I've represented exclusively employees who felt they were discriminatorily discharged or, there was discrimination or retaliation in the workplace. I've represented whistleblowers. I've also represented the companies defending against those claims. And I think, the common thing I see is that the more that a company, ignores or immediately dismisses their employees' concerns or gets defensive, the more likely the employee just doesn't feel seen and heard. And then that's when they really get angry, and that's when they might, uh, call the Department of Labor and, file a complaint. So, and I'm not saying that, companies should just be like a doormat to, to abuse from, employees if employees are, I've heard that from clients. Well, what if the employee is just, a chronic complainer? Should I just, take it on and be a doormat? No, you can actually, push back on inaccurate, claims or on things, let's say that don't sound right to you, but it's doing so in an emotionally mature, grounded, stable way. So I think it's important to have all those emotionally mature, tools in your arsenal combined with, knowing what the laws are, knowing how to follow them, having contracts and employee handbooks in writing and things of that nature.
So true. So true. I
Mm,
think what you're sharing is so valuable. And, and the thing about EQ, like you said, is you got to understand your own EQ, before you can
mm,
really understand other people, in terms of, and again, and knowing that the more proactive you can be, the better you're going to be in a position to, offset, more of the problem than what it can be. So, or hopefully prevent those problems from even escalating as you continue to
mm,
grow. Do you feel like, again, this has got to become part of their strategy in growing?
mm.
I mean, I can see that, but sometimes maybe some organizations are not thinking that way.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chris. Like I do think that this, having and cultivating emotional intelligence, EQ as they call it, business EQ, right, should be part of a company's mindset and vision for growth, right? Because again, if you are and to be clear, right, it's not as if it's a guaranteed lot that you're the emotionally, let's say, healthy business, healthy workplace. They can still get um, employee disputes. They can still have a random Department of Labor, audit come up, investigation. But I think that, right, it's important to know that you reduce your chances, right? You
Yes.
minimize the risk of, and also it's a win-win because putting aside for a minute my employment litigation cap, right? I'm telling you that, if you are planning to grow the business, you need certain things in place. You need certain attorneys in place. You need a clear business plan. You need to know the numbers of your business, the books. You have a CFO, but having emotionally centered, grounded management, leads employees to be more productive, right, and more happy, and then morale is higher. And I find that high morale is contagious among workers, and I find that low morale is contagious also. So a quick example: I have a client that was, looking to grow, and they're hiring more employees, and they're getting more business. It's fantastic, opening up branches in new states. And so they're setting up policies and they're asking me, they're asking what is the minimum, the least amount of vacation we can give in this state or that state or in Idaho or in Colorado, right? And they're asking what's the most we can work our employees without paying overtime, and they want to find out, can I punish this person for this offense? And what I'll tell them is, look, you need your employees, right, to sustain your growth. And aside from the fact that you might break a law around paid leave and get sued, or you might break a law around, let's say, overtime and find yourself with fines and penalties or a lawsuit, you're going to destroy if you destroy your employees' morale. They're not going to put in 100%, and they are going to leave. And any business that has high turnover knows the cost of training, retraining, interviewing, severance pay. So I think it should be on everyone's agenda. I think companies are moving more towards this, recognizing these. They used to call them soft skills. They're really smart skills. They're skills about how to run a company.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. And we hope listeners, you're taking notes. This is some valuable information Eric is sharing. Again, you're going to be getting this contact information here shortly for more insights. And again, this is something that is so important in part of your strategy in any business, at least from not only what Eric is sharing, just from my own experience as well. Eric, anything else that you would like to share that you have not covered that you think are vitally important to this conversation around raising your business EQ to lower risks of employment litigation?
Good question. Anything else that we covered a few different topics there. I think I would just say that, right, it's important to consult with outside sources, outside help when you are running a business. Too many small business owners, entrepreneurs, and startups that I've seen, Chris, they try to like wear every single hat all at once. And I find that, right, I'd say that to the point of EQ, emotional intelligence includes having a healthy sort of right side sense of humility, okay, I can't do it all. So I do need to hire like folks like yourself, to help with business EQ, and folks like me to help with employment law compliance. I would just say that really updating your employee handbooks, even though it's not necessarily business EQ, but it kind of does
Oh,
connect
yeah.
because it includes, right, policies on how you discipline employees, how you train them. Do you give second chances? Do you have a policy of progressive discipline, or, sort of a one strike, you're out? So I think it's important to look at those policies and, get with your employment lawyer. I mean, I help companies all the time with these issues because I know that, again, proactive, it's like penny wise and pound foolish. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I say, get with your employment lawyer like myself on employment litigation, defense, and on compliance. And, let's get you some tightly written contracts and commission agreements to make sure you're following the laws that the state and the government have, but also follow the laws, of just the social norms that I think an emotionally healthy business knows and understands.
Yeah, so true. Such valuable information. Eric, I know we could go on and keep talking about this. We are going to have to definitely have you back on for a hat trick here as we speak in hockey. 3-3-3. I would love to have the audience get to know you better. And I know now they're going to probably go back and look for the first show that you did here with us. And now with this episode. So how can people get best in contact with you? What are you up to, and anything you would like to leave with the audience?
Sure, Chris. Well, the best way to reach me would be you can send an email to me at EMS. So it's like Eric Mitchell Sarver, right? So it's EMS at sarverlawfirm.com. That's SARVER and the word lawfirm.com. That's one way to reach me. You can also go to my website, www.sarver-law.com. And if you can fill out a contact form or client request, my admin assistant will look at it and she'll send it on to me. And lastly, you can reach me directly. My phone, I often give out my, personal direct line, which is 917-930-8684. That way, if you have a business and you're looking for business law advice or contracts or, employment litigation defense or, Department of Labor audit help or anything like that, or a business, formation, I and my staff could certainly assist you.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be with us, and we will make sure all that contact information for Eric will be in the show notes. Thank you for being here today.
Chris, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate, the show, and I think your questions were spot on for the topic. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you, audience, each and every week joining us today. We are committed each and every week in bringing in subject matter experts like Eric to help move your business and level of influence to the next level. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Take care.